And it's episode 5 of the GRIDLIFE drivers meeting, and as you can see, we have an open seat. Lena Chin will be joining us here in just a little while. It's pretty significant traffic on I-90 through Chicago at the time being, and the Uber driver is caught up for the time being. So Lena will be joining us here shortly. But again, welcome to the Car Club, and welcome to, this is basically the GRIDLIFE offices. Right above me and right in front of me, right behind me, all around me is the Car Club. Our everyone's like, no sound. There we go. Yes, we're here. Again, we'll have Lena Chin on. We're going to talk all things Lena Chin, where she came from, what her background is, how things are going this season, and what's upcoming at GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends here this weekend. There are some folks joining us from all around the country and the world. Amaris is here, says, I'd love to see Eric Cattell and Alan Patton make an appearance here one day. Well, absolutely noted. We'll try to get Eric on. I know that we've got a couple of our friends from the KDM Tuners group that are going to be on probably next week, so keep an eye out for that, including Willem Dries and Jordan Wisely in the GRIDLIFE GT Championship. Mark Kilgore's popping in. Lena's in the chat for the time being as she's on her way here to the Car Club for the moment. So big news upcoming this weekend is GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends. As we know, our trip to Lime Rock Park. This is, I think, year number 4 now. We started going in 2022. This is one of our favorite events. Every time we come here, I mean, the staff is fantastic. If you've ever interacted with Dickie Regal, one of the shareholders there at Lime Rock Park, he's an unbelievable human being, and so is their entire team. So we're so excited to go back and celebrate modern tuning culture this weekend at Lime Rock Park. There are over 70 cars registered in the GRIDLIFE Track Battle competition. There are over 30 in Eibach GLTC Touring Cup. We have about a dozen in GRIDLIFE GT and about 25 to 30 in the Rush Series. Of course, we're bolstering that with another 30 or so drift cars on course, and that's what's happening this weekend. Only a 2-day competition at Circuit Legends. We only run Friday and Saturday here. Sunday, we have the FCP Euro Motoring Meet, which is a free event that anyone is welcome to come to. If you'd like to get tickets, your spectator tickets are for sale still on CircuitLegends.com. Camping is on its way to a sellout, which is really, really exciting. I can't wait to see the grounds packed in. We're basically, as far as I know, at the max camping spots that Lime Rock will sell, and we've got them all packed in. So really excited about that. The other news to note is that on the live stream for the GRIDLIFE Track Battle Championship, we're not running the podium sprint format this weekend. So there are just 6 heats, and we're kind of reverting to our classic track battle format because of the reduced on-track time. Fast slap of the weekend wins. So, again, you'll note also that the entries, 70 in Track Battle, about 30 in Eibach GLTC, 30 in Rush, and about a dozen in GRIDLIFE GT, might seem a little bit down from years past, and that's actually intentional as far as curating the on-track experience. For those that have run this event before, it gets really, really tight out there, and controlling run group sizes is a big deal. Of course, we'd like to have as many people as possible, but just kind of making sure that the on-track experience goes smoothly for everybody. So that's the reason why we don't have 60 Eibach GLTC cars here. We're not doing the AB format, just one heat of the GLTC stuff, which means 4 races. Actually, the AB format will be a fun topic when Lena gets here. We'll chat a little bit about one of her race wins that she's had in the series. Is that a Previa? Indeed it is, and it's a pretty modified one as well. So there's all sorts of cool cars, a JDM Honda CRX beside me, Honda GT600 over here, a couple S2000s and 3 Series, and a Porsche Speedster as well, just off the camera. So there's all sorts of neat stuff in the Car Club. Kind of a cool venue for sure. As far as notable entries here for this weekend, we have a pre-event blog post up on grid.life in the news section, and you can read all about what's happening here this weekend. But the big news on the GRIDLIFE GT side, we're getting back AJ Hartman, Chris DeLucia, and James Houghton, 3 of our competitors from the first 2 rounds of GRIDLIFE GT. These are sort of intentional absences from Road America, but they're back. Chris DeLucia had a big crash. We talked about this last week on episode 4 of the drivers meeting, where he had an accident testing his GLGT car in another series race, and backed it into the wall, and had to basically pull a shell out of the woods and grafted it onto the back of his car. So he's ready to go this weekend. A.J. Hartman is back in his New Edge Ford Mustang. We've also had him on the show before, and he talked about how he's basically got a New Edge Mustang chassis, an S550 rear subframe, a trans out of, I think it was a Cobra. I can't remember what the trans is out of, but the 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 out of the Ford F-150. So it's kind of an amalgamation of all the Ford parts. And, of course, James Houghton with the Honda Civic TCR. Mark Kilgore says, any announcements on who will join us in the booth this weekend? Mark, no. It's going to be guest drivers this weekend. couldn't quite nail down what we needed to bring in our initial list of people. So it's going to be drivers in the booth. And hey, Mark, if you're available, I'll take you. We'd love to chat, maybe during the wheel-to-wheel stuff, because the track battle stuff, you will be busy on course in your Street GT M4. So we're going to be having some new faces on and commentating. It'll be a very busy weekend for Kyle. We're really excited. We've also got some more work done on the Fire Laps graphics as well. If you tuned into Summer Apex, the GRIDLIFE GT stuff had new integration with Fire Laps. I'm tentatively calling it the hot stats, where we pull up some live data and information in GRIDLIFE GT, and all those cars are running Firelink boxes. Now, the data was working, but I had a little bit of an issue on my side parsing through the data. That's all fixed now. So we're going to see driver and car photos attached to that graphic, and we've got the braking force also working. So we've got lateral G's, longitudinal G's, maximum minimum speeds on a recent lap, and then we've also got is that Lena popping in already? 724. She was lying to me the whole time, wasn't she? So she's here. So we've got some really cool stats coming in on the Fire Lap side. So that graphics had a little bit of a revamp. The live points will also continue. Lena's here, and she was totally lying to me that she was going to get here at 7:24. But she's here now, and we'll have her hop on in and chat all things Lena Chin. So hop on in, Lena, and thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
All right, there we go. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. There you go. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
This is the first time that we've used the dual headset setup here.
I like it.
So
yeah.
I've usually been alone here. So here's Lena. So Lena, you're actually in Chicago. Of course, probably not as close as you'd like to be for tonight. So tell me about your Chicago experience, because obviously you're flying out to Circuit Legends tomorrow, but as I understand, you just got a new house here as well.
Yeah, I just got a house in Lakeview East. Great little neighborhood. Love it. Super walkable. So one of the reasons I kind of moved to Chicago was actually so I didn't have to drive on the street as much. That's very frustrating. I like driving on the track. That's kind of the more fun thing to do, right? So I have my sim rig set up at my house, and yeah, it's just it's a nicer way to live without having to deal with traffic, except for today.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we should basically start at the very beginning then, because I know you from the last couple of seasons. I was looking back at the last couple of seasons worth of races, but let's talk about Lena for a moment. Where'd you come from? What's your background, and how'd you get into racing?
Sure. So me and my dad were into cars when I was little. He took me to Sebring 12 hours when I was about 7. And that was super exciting to go to, and I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And we had a mechanic that was racing go-karts, and I was a small child, so like go-karts just seemed like the coolest thing ever to me. So kind of growing up, I always wanted to do that. Couldn't really do it, but we modified cars as I was growing up, and got a 240SX when I first started driving, and immediately came home with this car, and then me and my dad pulled out the engine the next day.
Wow.
So we took out the single cam.
Yep.
And I saw an article in Sport Compact Car that was like, here's how you put an SR20 into a 240SX. So I kind of used that article in some forums back in the day. And yeah, we did the engine swap over about 3 or 4 months, and that was like the first car that I drove. So I used that to go drifting and to do autocrosses and stuff like that.
Lena Chin's a drifter? I have not seen this version of Lena. I have not known about this talent that you possess.
Yeah, I might need to get back into it. I actually just saw like
I lost my camera. Keep talking.
I lost one of I did that way back in the day, and yeah, that was kind of like how I first learned how to drive was drifting. So might need to get back into it. I was out at Road America with Andy and the rest of the ASM crew that was drifting, and kind of enjoyed myself. So I still have my 240. It's sitting at ASM right now. Needs a little bit of work, but maybe one day I'll get it back up. Chat, who would like to see me start racing, or not racing, but drifting in GRIDLIFE? Hey, we're back.
If anyone was wondering, it's very hot in Car Club, and I don't know if our camera is going to last the whole time because of that heat. But anyway, you were saying drifting Lena.
Yep.
Okay.
Drifting Lena. Yeah, we used to just go to parking lots and do whatever. We actually started the first drift day in Florida way back in like 2004. So did that for a bunch of years, but then once I started getting into college and stuff, it was harder to do all the time.
Yeah. So, all right. So once you get into the GRIDLIFE world, tell me a little bit about how you found GRIDLIFE and how you got into it, because I think everyone gets in a different way.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I was still living out of Florida, and I was racing this like ex-IMSA Prelude that I got to race in NASA, Florida, and I saw GRIDLIFE was coming to AMP. And it was one of the events that they didn't, you guys didn't do the broadcast, but I really wanted to race against the field. It seemed like a really good field. The car wasn't optimized, but I still managed to finish like 14th for the weekend, which was pretty cool. But I was just hooked because like in Florida, in NASA, like I was podiuming, I was racing against like Caymans on Hoosier A7s and then like keeping up with them. And I felt like, really good. And then so when I got the competition in GLTC, I was just like, oh, this is where I need to be.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, again, once you started running with us, just looking back at 2022 stats. So you started, let's see, at AMP, I see, that was basically it for you in 2022, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2023, many starts, basically the entire season, Sans Laguna Seca. So what you mentioned, you got hooked. That was basically it. S2000, where'd this car come from? I know it was Andy Smedegard helped kind of prep it, but at what point did that sort of all come together?
Yeah, so 2022, after I did that first race, I got a taste of the drug of GRIDLIFE. I was like, okay, do I put a K24 into my Prelude? How do I make it more competitive? Or do I switch to a different chassis? So, of course, I was watching the rest of 2022 on the streams and stuff, even though I wasn't always there. And, ASM was doing really well with the S2000. I started talking to Andy, and he was like, hey, we can kind of build you out an S2000 if you'd like. And kind of ran the numbers and decided what kind of parts I wanted and everything. And I was like, okay, this is where I need to be. So kind of laid out a game plan on how to build the car and what we wanted out of it, and then got ready to race in 2023 with it.
Gotcha. And your car, and you've got a new livery on it now, but your car's always been very vibrant in color scheme. So what led you down the path of doing the original livery that you did, and then what led you down the path of kind of changing over to the paint scheme that you've got now?
Sure. Yeah. So the original paint scheme was kind of in support of the LGBT community, with the blue and the pink, and I loved having it for many years. The reason why we kind of changed liveries is there's been a couple boops, a couple incidents. The cars get beat up over the years, so I had it for 2 years, and then it just got too rough. So when it came time to redo it, it was like I could redo the livery, but it was a little pricier just because the lines that needed to be matched up and like the graphics and everything. Whereas if I was going to do a solid color, it was a little bit cheaper. I've been running the number 917 with GRIDLIFE since 2022 or 2023, and decided, hey, you know what? Let's just roll into the 917, the Porsche livery, and kind of do the Gulf colors.
So I guess the livery followed the number. Was the number for any particular reason, or was that just what was available and you just stuck with it?
So the funny part is, originally I wanted the 212 number, which is the area code for New York City.
Yep.
But Andy runs that, if
yes,
you know that. So I was like, what's another area code of New York that everyone kind of knows? It's the 917.
Oh, okay.
So it was actually kind of more based on that, where I'm from originally is New York, and then kind of rolled in with the Porsche idea when Greg brought it up.
Yeah, and that's Greg Creamer.
Yeah.
And we unfortunately we haven't had Greg Creamer on because he's been recovering from a surgery. I really miss Greg, but it's so interesting to me when drivers talk about their number, because for some drivers they don't really care. It's just, it goes on the door card. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect how the race car looks. But for some people, like, the number's an identity. And it's interesting to hear you kind of pick something that's, a New York area code, but then you're going to, transplant the Porsche history into it. I think all that's fascinating to, like, not necessarily have the number, have the number come from you and create your identity around it, but also to take the identity of what other people have done with that number also.
Totally.
That's kind of interesting as well. So let's dive in a little bit to the rest of your seasons, 2024. Going back to Lime Rock Park, where we're headed this weekend, you had a really, really good event there. car was a little spicy in one race, just a tiny bit spicy. But it did put you in a B group, where then you went and won one of the B races. And I think you done that the previous year as well. So you've got 2 B race wins at Lime Rock. What makes you so in tune with this place? Because last year you were just a rocket ship there.
Yeah, I think the course fits the car really well to begin with, right? Like it is a lot of high mid-speed corners where the S2000 kind of does really well in. And I had there's a calmness that comes upon me in like the mountains of Connecticut that just like, really makes it special. I've been super lucky that my family has also been there for both races so far. They're coming to this one too. And I think having them there is actually pretty special too, and kind of gives you that little extra push to want to do a little better. So
yeah, you've got dog Foxy also, which someone in the chat knew about and asked to talk about Foxy. So does Foxy come to the racetrack on occasion?
Foxy comes to the racetracks that I can drive to from here. So your Road Americas, you'll see her. Your Midwest Fest, that's the kind of the ones that she comes to. So Foxy is the best dog ever. She's such a good track dog. She's super chill. She just wants belly rubs. So if you see her, just give her some belly rubs.
Yeah, can confirm that Foxy rocks. As far as going back to Lime Rock and how you're so in tune with it there, watching back the excellent GRIDLIFE episodes that Alex Freeman did for us last year, he focused on you for an episode. If you haven't seen this yet, on the GRIDLIFE YouTube channel, go to videos and go to GRIDLIFE. I think it's episode 4, Climbing the Mountain. And that was sort of a metaphoric thing, the climbing the mountain. What was the mountain for you?
So the mountain originally for me was just like getting into the top 10 pretty regularly. And he asked me before the weekend started, he was like, hey, what's your goals for the weekend? Where would you like to be? And I was like, hey, I really want to finish top 10. It's always kind of been like a goal of mine because the competition is just so stiff in GLTC. And so he's like, cool. And he kind of made the joke after the first race when I finished like 6th. He was like, I was hoping to get a different part of the field, but you just moved your way up to where I had already done a lot of, the videos on the other top drivers. So I was like, yeah, I guess you have to keep on coming back so I can keep on doing really well and just keep on putting your cameras in my car, obviously.
Yeah, what's that experience like? Because we're unable to continue the GRIDLIFE episodes thing this year, which is a real shame. But I think it was really neat to kind of watch Alex go about his process and capturing every moment. I think he did an amazing storytelling job. From my perspective, it's hard to create a story before you get to a race weekend because you don't know what's going to happen. That's what live sport's all about. So, did he have something? It sounded like he had something kind of planned, and you kind of ruined it by doing good. But what's the experience like of having all the media? Like, you can talk about this specific project with GRIDLIFE, but GRIDLIFE in general, kind of prides itself on the presentation of grassroots racing. So, in your experience at Lime Rock last year, what was it like to have all the cameras pointed at you and all the microphones and audio capturing your whole experience?
I honestly thought it would be a lot more scary, more intimidating. But really, there's something magical that happens in the car for me where it's like you're only concentrating on the driving at the time. So he was able to really capture these moments without me thinking about it, which was wonderful. Because when I was a kid, I had terrible stage fright.
Yeah.
So when we did Road America as the support series for NASCAR, I didn't notice all the people around until the end of race 4 when we were done. And I looked around and I was like, oh my gosh, there's like 20,000 people watching us race.
Yeah.
And it kind of hit then. But, while racing, while kind of being there, I'm just so focused on the driving that it's kind of nice that the cameras can go around and it doesn't really seem to bother me too much.
Yeah, and there was a great moment towards the end of that where Andy Smedegaard pulls up behind you, I think after the last race, and you're just kind of sitting there on pit lane waiting to pull into the paddock, and he just kind of runs up and bumps you in the back.
Gives me a little boop.
Yeah, and you kind of giggled about it. It was kind of a sweet moment. The camaraderie of the team that you've worked with, of the drivers around you. There's a lot of Lena Chin fans that were already in the comments before you even showed up. They're saying you're one of the best people to race against, all this. And all. How important is it for you to foster foster that camaraderie? And who are the people around you on the racetrack that you're like, that's my buddy, and we're going to have the best time?
Yeah, I have so many. It'd be almost impossible to name them all. I feel so thankful to race with all of them. Yeah, the ASM crew is great. Like, me and Matt love to exchange data and with Dai and stuff, and that helps us get faster. And then like the people around me on the track, like Kevin Zhu, I always love seeing him at Lime Rock. We always end up having good battles. I think we have the last 2 years, so I'm hoping for that again. And Kevin, if you're in the chat. Pretty much anyone I race with. Nick Barbado, he's amazing. It's the after race when you go talk to everyone that you had an amazing battle with. I think that's really special. That's one of my favorite things. That's what builds the camaraderie, right?
Do you have a specific race or moment that kind of stands out to you? I mean, the B race wins are big, but the one last year, you pretty much dusted everybody in that one. So I have to imagine that there's a race that you think about, or like a moment that was exceptionally fun.
Yeah. When I was chasing Houghton and Matan last year in race 2, and I had to keep on Tony Marchev kept on kind of coming up on me. And just making it be like, all right, you want to take me, you got to take me on the outside. But as long as I held that inside line, after like 2 or 3 laps, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, I can just concentrate on what's in front of me, try to get Houghton and stuff. Yep. And even though I didn't move many positions that race, it was just super exciting. I was like, holy cow, like, I am here.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of my more special races for sure.
Everyone's got a race or two that they love and can remember. I'm sure everyone has a lot of races where they wish they did something different, or you think about over and over and over again, like, I could have done something about that. Is there a race that you can remember where you're like, man, if I just did something a little bit different, the result would have been different?
Yeah, so Midwest Fest this year.
Okay.
I was facing a couple of small car issues, and I had an overheating issue in I think that was race 3. So I had to shift at like 6,700 RPM. So I wasn't able to use nearly my full power band. And I was coming out of 11, last lap, last turn. And my teammate was behind me, and I misshifted. And Robert Thorne got me right at the end, and I was oh my gosh, like, and I think I was in 9th at the time, so I ended up in 10th, but it was just like, I should have had it.
Gotcha. I think I'd like to get your thoughts on the current state of the series, because you've been around 2022, you had your opening round, then 23, 24, now a couple rounds in 2025. Your experience kind of watching the series progress and get more competitive, and this year, statistically, it's the most competitive season we've ever had from a race wins perspective. We're just past halfway, but it also feels like the energy level has come up a bunch. Mm-hmm. What's your experience been like, kind of being in the thick of it? Kind of what do you make of where the series is going right now?
Yeah, it's really cool to see. If anyone out there has watched kind of where IMSA came from, when I said I had an IMSA prelude, IMSA used to start, it was more grassroots, right? Like, you had kind of privateer teams vying for this race series, and then kind of building themselves out. I'm kind of seeing that with GRIDLIFE too, right? Like, the competition's getting more fierce, people are working harder on their cars to make it go faster, people are concentrating on their driving more. Like, it's gone from more casual to this really cool kind of like, it feels kind of semi-pro, honestly. Yeah. And the crowds are getting bigger, so it's been cool to see it grow. Of course, with Grassroots, the part of it is the idea that people, privateers, and individuals can afford to keep on doing it. So I hope we can continue to keep that portion in.
Yep.
With the growth of the series.
Yeah, because I guess that's the interesting thing, right, is the balance. And some of this, we've had conversations about how some of it's unintentional, right? Like where, you give people these really cool looking trophies and you put them on the internet, right? And you start bringing crowds, and like the competitors kind of get riled up, and they're like, all right, I'm going to build a faster car. And then it just kind of goes and goes and goes. And like the scope creep on rules and the things, it makes it hard to balance. So for you, coming in the true Grassroots form in 2022, which was like the 3rd or 4th season of GLTC, to now, are we at the balance point, do you think, where, the proification that is sort of led a lot by the competitors continuing to push, right? Is there a point that the series should say, all right, this is getting a little out of hand, we need to pull things back a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely think we are right at that brink there. I think GRIDLIFE's doing a great job at making sure that we do stay there. But of course, you're always worried. I am very grassroots. I sponsor myself. I spend my own hard-earned money, self-sponsored, to be able to do it. I do have a few sponsors out there that do help with some of the consumables and some of the stuff I wear, which is great and super helpful. But overall, it is a very expensive sport any way you look at it. So the more we can kind of rein it in and really concentrate on the drivers and making sure that the driving is important, or like a deciding factor, is definitely a goal, and I hope GRIDLIFE sees that too.
Yeah, and also just because I'm honestly curious from someone who's very invested in the broadcast side of things, for you personally as Lena Chin, how much does the presentation of the series just help you make your decision to continue running with GRIDLIFE, or does it not affect it, right? Like, because there are some people that would say, I just want the best racing experience possible. I don't really care if anyone watches. On the grand scheme of the world, maybe not many people are even watching. For you, where does the presentation kind of blend with your desire to keep doing this over something else?
Sure. I definitely think the presentation matters because you do an amazing job. Like, I wasn't
fishing for compliments. No.
No, it's really cool, and it's something that I knew going into, even looking back in the future. I hope I can do this as long as possible. I don't know how long I can really do it for. It's something I can always look back on and be like, hey, that was us, and sometimes we watch old videos of like sports car racing from Australia in the 80s, and realistically not many people watched it back then, right? It was probably on at 2 a.m. on some TV channel that no one watched. But going back and watching their racing, you're just like, oh my gosh, that was like such cool racing. So to be able to capture and have that forever and to see that is definitely important to me in the grand scheme of things. The competition, of course, being so stiff is another huge portion, like you said. And then also just like for the young ones, the fans. I love seeing the little girls come up to me and cheering me on and stuff like that. That's amazing too. So kind of keeping it going for the next generation. I think you can only do that with the presentation, right?
Sure, and actually that's a great point because one of the things this year that we've started to do from Midwest on, and we have another one of these coming up this weekend, by the way, for going to Circuit Legends, is the fan walk on pit lane. So we'll have another one of these for Eibach GLTC this weekend. We've been printing out posters. I've got Sharpies that I'm going to be picking up. So the question I would have also is like, when you see all these young boys, these young girls that are like trying to get into racing, which is already sort of a niche thing, and it's increasingly niche as time goes on, how important is it to like, in the grassroots position as like a driver that builds your own car, or at least maintains your own car and drives your own car, how important is it to like be the pro and like wear the fire suit and sign the autograph? Like, is that part of it for you? Is that part of the experience is to like be that idol that someone can look up to, or is that accidental because of the way that we built this series?
No, it's definitely very intentional because, again, kind of going back to when I was little, when I was 7, I went to Sebring and stuff, seeing all the professional racing drivers in their suits and stuff, like that was part of the aura of them, of the series, of the event we were at. And I know how much that kind of matters because if you're just kind of in normal clothes, you don't know, right? Like, but when you put on the fire suit, it's almost like when people used to put on like suits of armor to go into
like
battle.
Astronauts.
Right? Yes, astronauts, right? So it's super special in that sense.
Yeah, that's for me. I think that's been interesting to watch because we can all look at pro racing and appreciate. I'm a big IMSA fan. There's a lot of sports car racing series that are out there that put on a really good show, but I think what grassroots racing offers is people like yourself who can do engine swaps, and you are wrenching yourself. And like, to me, that is more an example of a hero than anything else, right? Because not only are you driving the car, but you're also like responsible for it, right? Which I think is a big difference between what we're doing and what pro racing can be sometimes. And then there's also like the expectations of the series too, where that personal responsibility extends to the rules as well in regards to incidents and things. So, from your perspective, having run in GLTC, how important is it for you that the rules keep drivers accountable for the things that they do on the track, also on and off track? Actually, is probably a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So even our rules, if anyone's, I'm sure many people have read it out there. have driver conduct both in and out of the car. And we always want to have clean battles. You know, I tell anyone who's around me, we talk to each other before the grid, before we get out on track. It's like, hey, let's have a clean race. Let's battle hard, but let's battle fair. Super important. And then just like driver conduct and how we kind of showcase ourselves outside of that, I think is important as well. So, I think, again, GRIDLIFE has done a pretty good job with making sure and maintaining that happens on both sides.
Yeah. Looking at, we've got Circuit Legends upcoming, which is kind of the hot topic because we're both headed there very, very soon. As far as the schedules and the way that the tracks are laid out, we're sort of, Midwest based, but we go to these other places around the country. You've seen the schedule be all over the place, right? There was a couple of years where we basically went everywhere.
Yeah.
For you, is there a track that's not on the calendar now that you'd like to see added back?
Ooh, so Watkins Run.
Okay, good. Yep.
That was such a fun track. I wish it was not so wet.
Yeah.
When we went, it was still a blast, but I would have the amount of grip and how smooth that track is amazing, and I really, really want to get some good sessions. When we went there, I think it was only like the third or fourth time I drove my S2000.
Yep.
So I was still getting used to it, and I didn't really feel like I could get the most out of it. Like, now that I'm into my third year with this car, I feel much more comfortable kind of pushing it to the absolute limit. So I'm hoping we do go back there.
This is an interesting. I'm not in charge of this anymore, but not that I ever was. But like when you look at a calendar for a Grassroots racing series, right? What's the right number of events? Because we're doing 9 this year.
Mm-hmm.
We've done as many since I've been here as 15, I think. But is less more, or is like having more total better, and then having a selection of ones that are closer to you, but not having everybody at all of them? Like, where's the balance there?
Ooh, that's tough. I really enjoyed doing like the seven race seasons. Like that's kind of been my magic number.
Mm-hmm.
It can get a little tough with time, right? Especially we're in the Midwest, so like we only have a smaller amount of time than when I was in Florida to race. So yeah, I think if I had my option, is money an issue, or is it just like money?
Money's always an issue. We're Grassroots racing, right?
Yeah,
that's real.
So like I think between 5 and 7 per driver is kind of the sweet spot. I didn't do all of them this year. I wasn't at CMP and stuff, or Road Atlanta. But yeah, I think it's always trying to find that balance, and I think it kind of depends on the year too, right? Like I've had banner years where I'm like, hey, you know what? I sold my house. Let's go racing.
If you could create the perfect schedule, this is going to be a favorite track conversation wrapped into like if you were CEO of GRIDLIFE for a day, what are the tracks that you would go to?
Oh, let's see. I still want to do Laguna. Laguna's on the list. I haven't been able to do that one yet. I want to do some of the smaller tracks, kind of like Blackhawk Farms.
Sure.
I heard that one's a lot of fun. I love Mid-Ohio. Watkins.
Yep.
I really want to go back to Sebring with my car. That's actually a huge one for me.
Interesting.
I know it's far.
Yeah.
I know not everyone wants to go down there, but
it's rough on cars too.
It is rough on cars.
It's like the Road America curbing is like the whole track.
Yeah.
Is the way I describe that. But I have you had experience running there in a Grassroots amateur racing environment? Like, do cars hold up there?
Yeah, surprisingly they do.
Okay.
I've done a lot of. I probably know that track better than any other one. I did Champ Car for about 3 years with a Miata.
Yep.
And we had stock suspension, stock arms and stuff, and it held up fine. Like, the suspension wasn't the thing that was breaking. It was kind of shocking. We did try to stay off the curbs as much as possible, but yeah.
So, all right, so Blackhawk's a great racetrack. I've driven there, but top 3 and then bottom 3.
Ooh, okay. Top 3 are going to be Sebring, Lime Rock, and Watkins.
Okay,
East Coast Girly.
That's a pretty good smattering, I have to say.
Bottom 3.
And it doesn't have to be on the GRIDLIFE calendar. These can just be tracks.
Oh, just tracks.
Yeah,
okay.
just tracks.
Daytona's kind of boring.
Yeah, I guess I suppose in most cars that aren't GTPs, it's probably not that interesting.
Yeah, and at least where I am in my racing, Coda is not the best because 200 horsepower on the back straight, I mean, you can sit there and knit for about half an hour.
Yep.
And then past that, I'm trying to think of what other tracks that I was just kind of like, It's always exciting to go to new tracks.
Did you do New Jersey when we were there?
I didn't do New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never went to that one either. I had stuff pop up, so I was never able to go. But there were some drivers, like Dewey in particular, was like, New Jersey's the best. We got to go back there. And other drivers were like, it was 9 million degrees and steel was melting and it was no fun. But
ooh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's always interesting to get people's opinions on different tracks because again, unsurprisingly, it's very subjective. Who likes what. But what's the outlook for the S2000? It's got a new livery on it, but is there like a trajectory for it parts-wise, or is it just like you've got it in the spec that you want it and you're just kind of fixing stuff when it breaks, or is there like a vision to push towards even still?
There's always a vision to push towards, I think.
It's getting a hybrid powertrain next year.
Yeah. A little Sasha Annie style, hybrid
honestly, that car
powertrain.
is so sick. It's not going to be at Lime Rock this weekend. I'm so sad.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have some mechanical issues with it. Maybe it'll surprise us, but I haven't seen it on the entry list yet.
I've been seeing him build that car for like 20 years.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. For the S2000, I'm still on stock brakes, so maybe it's time for a brake upgrade.
Stock S2000 brakes?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I am blown away by that. That's fascinating. So when you look at data, like, are you having to compensate for that a ton in comparison to someone like Matt or Andy?
There's definitely like different amounts of braking that I have to do to get the car to do what it wants. During Midwest Fest this year, I cracked a rotor pretty bad. So. The stock brakes probably need to go. I want to work more on the aero. The S2000 doesn't have very good aero. People think it's very sports car-esque, but it's very draggy.
Is it just draggy?
It's super draggy. And then I want to do a bunch of small stuff to it, like free up the hubs, try to get some more free spin there, and then part of me wants like old school sequential with like. Yeah, the push-pull stick.
Yeah, sure.
That just seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's an interesting area that we've seen with sequential transmissions. I know that like in Street Mod recently there was an adjustment that basically permitted sequential gear sets in OEM housings, which was sort of interesting. I don't think that applies to GLTC, or if it does, you'll take the modifier for it. But that was kind of an interesting thing because sequential race car, right? Like
right?
That feels like an obvious
just
one to go.
The dog box sound,
So all right, so Lime Rock's coming up. You're going there.
Mm-hmm.
What else is on the calendar for you?
So I have Autobahn, I have and Pit Race.
Okay.
Yep.
So basically everything but Laguna because we're getting down to the meeting. Is that right?
Yeah,
just Autobahn, Pit Race. Yeah. Okay. So basically everything but Laguna. Great. Did you do Pit Race last year?
I did.
What do you think about Pit Race?
Pit Race was a ton of fun. What a fun course.
Yeah.
I found some pretty good speed there. I'm curious how people do this year because last year was the first year we were there. And I find that certain drivers struggle when they go to a new track more so than others. So now that we've been there, I'm kind of curious how the field will kind of restack itself. Being the second year, but it is a fun course.
I got a chance to do a DE session on Sunday, and everyone had told me this, and I had experienced this when I had done the pace car stuff at the Super Grid event we had a couple years ago. But that place is super abrasive. Did you experience that with tire wear and that sort of thing? Like, and how do you manage that over the course of a weekend? From like, how many weekends are you getting on a set of tires, and how did Pit Race compare as far as tire wear?
Let's just say I'm glad it was the last race of the season. Generally speaking, where I'm on the meme tires, I'm on the Kumo V730s, so I can generally get about 2 race weekends out of it. Pit Race, I had an almost new set, and I was pretty much down to the cords by the end of it. Yeah. And I made sure to not do the full qualifying session, because it's like 45 minutes of wear and tear. So I did probably about like 20 minutes because I knew I needed to save some tires. I think some other drivers had some serious issues where they actually had to swap out tires because it got so bad.
It's wild. Yeah. Brian Santiago, who we just had on last week, he has a Ford Focus ST in Eibach GLTC. He asks, what car would you like to see in GLTC that's not currently in it?
Ooh.
And there's some really cool cars. Like we've had an R32 GTR. There's the Merkur XR4 Ti that we've seen run.
FDs.
There's all sorts of cool stuff. So what is on Lena's list that's not currently in it?
Gosh.
And I'll add to this question, what's like Sans Corvette, hot topic, what would be the car that you would build to dominate the series if money was no object? So there's two questions in one there.
Corvette OP.
Corvette, but like the car that you want to build.
Sure.
Not necessarily the one that you want to build that if you could spend all the money on it, you would run.
Sure. I don't want to ruin anyone's build, but I heard that there's there might be like an older mid-90s Ferrari coming in, possibly.
That's awesome. Is it maybe the one that might have graced Facebook the other day?
It very well could.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Cool. That's excellent. All right.
Something like that would be super cool. I would love to see someone take like an old school Mini and make it for GLTC. I think it would take a lot.
Yeah.
But like I was watching Goodwood, the Revival.
Yeah. The real minis, because we had Ben Morosky from FCP Euro had like one of the newer minis.
They're newer minis, yeah.
But you're like talking like the mini.
I want the tiny little Mini just skidding across the turns, you know.
I wonder if like a turbocharged like motorcycle engine would be the way to go with that.
That or a K20.
Or K20. That'd be pretty sick.
That would be pretty cool, right?
Well, does anyone know anything about the suspension geometry of a CRZ? Because I thought there was a K20 or K24 CRZ that was a pace car a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered if that was a decent platform.
I don't know if they have the solid rear axle. That's the only thing. You'd have to swap in like a Civic, like a.
Yeah, they're just cool.
Yeah.
And they're like the modern CRX we've got one next to us. I always thought those things were really sick. So I'd like to see a CRZ. But I almost bought one to turn into a pace car.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a stupid idea, but I almost did that. All right, so I guess the old school kind of Ferrari thing would be kind of interesting, especially like I'm thinking almost like along the lines like the Mike Burrows Stance Works.
Yes.
Like K20.
Very similar.
What's that? A 288?
His is a 348.
348.
Yeah.
That is such a cool car, and I can't believe that Ferrari hasn't stopped that. But it's really cool. So okay. In Eibach GLTC, we've seen all these unique builds. We've also seen that like there are certain formulas that seem to get you to the front a little cheaper and a little quicker and a little easier than some other builds. Mm-hmm. So, in your mind, we've got cars like Eric Cattell, who he wanted to build a JTCC car. He built one. It's really good. How much should the series? And I'm trying to figure out how to ask this.
Builder versus racer?
Yeah, because I guess the question is is it? The series is about both, like building a car and racing it. But should every chassis be able to be good? If you could dump as much money as you want into it, or is it just there are just cars that are inherently better, and BOPing every chassis to the end of time is impossible? Do you have any thoughts on that? I'm interested for myself.
Sure.
Because you see there's a good mix of cars up at the front, but the R32 GTR, that thing's wicked, but is it ever going to be a pointy-end car? Maybe. I don't know. I'm curious, how much is it the series' responsibility to make all the cars capable?
That is a tough question. I think we all ask ourselves that sometimes. When you get down to it, it'd be almost impossible to get all the chassis to be equal. You would have a rule book that's thicker than the thesauruses or. Yeah. That's tougher. I do think if there is a specific chassis that is kind of taking over, something needs to be done on it.
Yeah.
To make it more even. So for us right now, I was kind of going back to the aerodynamics.
Sure.
The S2000 aerodynamics are not very good. The Corvette's very good.
Yep.
So anytime we're on a long straight, Road America, Coda, end of the straight, even if I get a better exit off the turn, I'm usually falling behind them.
Right.
So being able to maybe not necessarily BOP everything, but to give the chance as brought forth to kind of even it out as much as possible, I think is appreciated as a driver.
I think there's a really interesting aspect to. I'd love to get. We had AJ Hartman on, who's an aerodynamicist, but I'd like to get on. Ryan Dunham or Ido Waxman, who are aerodynamicists by trade, or at least Ido is, to talk about Eibach GLTC, or even in Time Attack, how much is left on the table in aerodynamics in general? Because when you look at something like a high-level Time Attack car or a GRIDLIFE GT car that's home-built versus a TCR car like James Houghton's, it feels like so much ground can be made with the knowledge of how to harness aerodynamics. And when you talk about drag and efficiency of aero, that feels like an unexplored area of grassroots racing, but also probably because it requires so much knowledge and expense to like figure out.
To do it properly, yeah, right?
Right.
Like you can kind of throw things on the car hoping for the best. You can have a rough idea or you can talk to an aerodynamicist, but yeah, like of course the worry of cost creep in aerodynamicist the world of aerodynamics is very high because you could have potentially one of the competitors go to a wind tunnel and try 10 different things, to find 2 or 3 miles an hour at the end of the straight. So we want to be careful about doing that necessarily.
Yeah, so that, I guess that kind of brings up the question I was asking earlier a little bit because, and we'll talk more in depth about this, I think, later on, I think when it's more appropriate to. But I'm interested in, like, in a grassroots series where, like, you win one of these, right? Like, what's the goal of, like, taking a car to a wind tunnel? Right, like certainly optimizing and being the best and winning is certainly on the mind. But like, how do you balance like the fun of everyone just having a good time and enjoying racing each other versus like the pull for competition? Right, like where are you on that scale? Where's fun and like where's super serious Lena that wants to crush everybody? Because it's a spectrum for everybody.
It has to be a spectrum, right? Yeah. So much that I'm willing to spend more than I probably should to go racing, but not so much that I'm willing to go homeless for it. So that's if you're asking where I land on the spectrum. But I think that is tough because we aren't doing it for prize money. I always get people who aren't in the series or in racing like, oh, how much do you get if you win? It's like, oh, I get a plastic trophy.
Right. But
I think there's something wired in all of us that even though we know it's just a plastic trophy, we still want it because we know how much it means to us to be up there.
And for the builder side of it too, because I think the Eibach GLTC is unique. Maybe it's unique in that it's not a spec series where you can build whatever you want effectively, as we've seen. What's really stopping you from just like being passionate about finding every little thing? I mean, I look at Eric Cattell as a great example of this. He's driving a 1990s Grocery Getter Honda at a very high level.
Yes.
And if you're not familiar with the amount of detail that he goes in with his suspension, you need to watch his YouTube channel.
Oh, it's amazing.
The amount of detail is unbelievable. So,
yes.
There's a passion side of it, too, that's maybe not necessarily competition-driven, but just, like, car nerd-driven?
Totally, absolutely. Like, just trying to find those little tweaks. So, this year in my car, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I decided we tilted the radiator at the end of last year. But the end goal was to get it so that I have ducting basically from the front bumper out the hood. So no more air going underneath into the engine bay, underneath the car that creates lift and stuff. So we're always, I think, on the builder side, trying to find those tweaks to make it a little better. So he worked very hard on his roll center adjustments. He wanted his car at a certain level, and it did not matter how Eric Cattell, how much work he put into it. He wanted the car to have a certain stance, but he still needed to handle, right? Because he's an amazing driver and he wants to be at the front. So to see him do that, I'm just like, sometimes I'm blown away, right? Yeah. Like, we're all doing it on some level. He spends so much time on it, and I give him so many props for doing that.
Gotcha. All right, I'm going to put you in the captain's chair for a second. At the end, I'm going to ask you if you could change one thing, what would you change? But I think I'm going to preempt that with in Eibach GLTC right now. If there was like a big, I'm going to go like high level, a sweeping adjustment you could make to make the series better. Maybe not necessarily like a particular rule, but like what would be a guiding principle that you would say to all the drivers, say like this, and the series, this is how we're going to make this better?
Ooh, that's tough.
Like a generalization. Like it can be like, don't try so hard, or it can be try way harder, or anything, stuff like that.
Yeah. I would say, no matter where you are in the field, just have fun. I think some people I was in the mid-pack for 2023 and for, some in 2024, and the amount of try-hard that caused issues within that area was so great. And it's like, and I don't know how you necessarily change the vibes of everyone, right? Like, everyone's trying to move up and do better. But, like, the struggles of having someone push themselves beyond what them or the car can do and then cause an incident was always like kind of devastating, right? Because we're all paying for the repairs ourselves.
Right. Yeah, I guess like, you know, because the mid-pack battles, I think there's also like you're around some drivers that are running 20th that want to be 10th, and some that are running 20th that are usually 30th, right? And so you're kind of in a mix of energies there. Do you find that when you go forward, when it gets maybe tidier, but also a little bit less friendly? I mean, we'd like to say that Eibach GLTC, everyone's friends with each other, right? But like it seems like it would get more competitive the closer you get to the front.
Absolutely.
But also maybe the driving is a little bit more within margin there too.
Yes, exactly. So it is tougher. Like people will close gaps on you and make moves. But it is much cleaner. Like everyone kind of knows where the car is. They know the limits of the car. And for the most part, people aren't pushing past that limit to put yourself or them in danger. So, there's an aggressiveness, but it's also like some of the best racing I've had, closer to the top 10, or in the top 10.
Yeah, Scott Hollingsworth in the chat talking about doing aero development without a wind tunnel, using tufts of yarn and GoPros and things like that.
I think that should be allowed. If you want to spend the time on the highway and just kind of look at video on, I think that's okay.
Yeah, and Penguin's got the hard-hitting questions tonight. I think it's interesting because, like you're a subscriber to GLTC, so I think this platform for me has been about like, let's ask about your background, know where you came from, but also like you've chosen it, so your input is valued and necessary, right? And so I think having this platform, like we talk about this beforehand. It's not scripted.
No.
And I think that part of this is for me is like getting the actual reaction, and what can we do to make the series better, right? Like I can't necessarily make that change tomorrow, but knowing where Lena Chin is, knowing where AJ Hartman is, knowing where Peter Gramberg is, like knowing where everyone's input comes, these are the drivers in our community that are up at the front. So that's why it's worth asking the question. To follow up on that, if you could make one change to GridLife tomorrow, what would it be?
I have brought up the idea of a cost cap on engines.
Interesting. Or just even cost caps in general.
Or just cost caps in general.
On something in particular.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can keep it grassroots that way. So if someone wants to put in the time on the car and do the tufts of yarn and kind of, again, going back to that grassrootsness, I think that's great. When you start talking in terms of like, earlier this year they talked about allowing motorsports ABS, and then it's like, if you want to be at the front, okay, now everyone's having to dump $10,000 to $20,000 into their car to put in this motorsports ABS in it. I'm like, that's not the direction I would want the series to go personally. So like a cost cap of some kind to kind of rein that in, but still give people the opportunity to spend time with the car and to really kind of think outside the box, like instead of just throwing parts on to make it faster, instead of throwing a $25,000 motor in or a $10,000 ECU, whatever. I think kind of getting back to that builder and spending the time like Katil kind of does would be really.
That's a really interesting one. I haven't had that one yet, but this is why we asked the question. We're running out of time here because I've got to go grab our posters for the fan walk on Saturday. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't covered yet? Any particular story? Anything that you were like jonesing to get at?
Nothing in particular. Let me think about that for a second. I mean, I love the GridLife community. Thank you for everyone that's kind of been following along with my journey. GridLives was amazing. I did talk to Alex Freeman. There is a chance he might come.
Nice.
So maybe there'll be a part 2 of GridLives. I don't know.
Hopefully.
See.
That'd be great. Mark Kilgore actually has a great question. What's your sim routine and how do you use it?
Ooh,
That's a good one. And let's open this up to questions for a couple minutes. If you got a question, ask it now. We're running out of time, so
Let's
go.
Let's do it.
Go.
So for when I do sim practice, before a race weekend, generally the 2 weeks before, I will go. I try to do at least an hour a day. If I can get some friends along, I'll do that. If not, I'll just kind of jump into a iRacing, whatever league race I can find. If it's a new race, I generally will start spending like a month. So before we went to pit race last year, I wanted to know the course, so I jumped into Assetto Corsa and spent the time to make sure I really knew the course, so that by the time I got there, I was more prepared.
What's your sim car that you use to test with?
Oh, I'll do anything.
Anything.
It's just
cars in general.
how I feel,
Yeah.
right? Like there's some like the FR 500? That's kind of fun.
I love that car. That's such a good. I hold a world record in that car.
Do you really?
And it will never be broken because it was at Watkins Glen Boot or Cup. I can't remember which configuration, but it was on the original scan that is no longer accessible. And I hold the qualifying track record in the FR 500 on one of those two layouts. You can check this yourself. You can verify. But I love that car. And I did that on an Xbox controller also.
That's amazing.
Not trying to brag, but that was before I owned a wheel. So yeah, the sim racing stuff is big. We hope to kind of bring that back into the fray a little bit. I had a really interesting rabbit hole the other day about our broadcast graphics because they can be repurposed for the sim world.
Yes.
And instead of having to like make a copy of them, I can just use them.
Exactly.
So I'm really stoked about that. What sort of characteristic do you prefer in a competitive tire? Because you're on the Kumo.
I'm on the Kumo.
And there's a choice in Eibach GLTC.
There is a choice.
So there must be a reason why you've gone that route.
Yeah, there's a couple reasons. So cost is obviously always a consideration.
Yes.
The Kumos are very well priced for what you got. They are good to the last drop, which is wonderful. I've driven on the Falcons. They're very fast at the beginning. So if it's a course whereas passing might be hard, like Lime Rock, I might be more akin to do something like the Falcon because there's not as much of a chance of getting past if I have a strong start. I think the Nexons were kind of the same way, right? Yeah. The Kumos are very good in the sense that they don't really fall off at the end. The only thing I don't like about the Kumos is that they feel a little dead in slip angle. The Falcons have more tire feel, so it all kind of into consideration depending on the track and stuff. And then we use the Contis for the rain because I've been on Kumos in the rain and that's not fun.
If you could put a money cap on a specific assembly, which would you, as an S2000 driver, select?
I mean, I think the engine is still there.
Yeah.
I think like a $10,000 cap on an engine is pretty fair, right? Like,
yeah.
You kind of. I think you can find pretty good engines for $10,000 or less.
Yeah. That's a good question. All right, we got to get rolling here because I got to go get those posters before M13 closes. So that's where I'm going to go. Lena, where do we find you on the internet?
So I'm on Instagram at Lena Chin. I'm also on YouTube at Lena Chin Racing. So I have lots of my in-cars in there. I'm going to try to do some commentary with my racing, kind of like Jeremy Swinson used to do back in the day. I think people find that a little more interesting. I'm on TikTok as Lena Chin Racing too.
Great. And when are you headed there? Because I know you're flying in, right?
I'm flying in Thursday morning.
Gotcha. So I'll see you. I'm leaving tomorrow morning, crack of dawn, stopping in Rochester on the way, and I'll also be there on Thursday morning. So that's where I'm headed. So Lena, thank you so much for coming in and braving the traffic. I know it was kind of a short one, but we got places to go.
That's it.
It's event week. So we'll be back on next week with the next drivers meeting. Thanks for watching episode 5. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Good crowd tonight. And everyone, make sure you tune in this weekend. The links are already available for Circuit Legends this weekend, just Friday and Saturday. No Sunday stream. We're not racing on Sunday this week. And make sure that you subscribe if you have not, and make sure you like it. The more people see the stuff, the more we can do. Big thanks to everyone, and we'll see everyone next week with the KDM Tuners, guys. I'm Kyle Hire with Lena Chin. We'll see you next time.
Bye.